people still attack John Mayer for Dear John, and that came out 30 years ago.
Okay, it came out not that long ago.
Honestly, it's really like she started it, and it's time for her to finish it. And I tried to talk to her about it, and she wouldn't speak to me.
What secrets are Taylor Swift, Jon Hamm, Phil Lewis, and more hiding? Well, stick around to find out. Some of Taylor Swift's musical inspirations have not been entirely impressed by the singer's not-so-romantic ballads. In 2012, John Mayer told Rolling Stone that he was embarrassed by the song Dear John after her third studio album, Speak Now, because it was kind of presumed to be about him. He said, "It made me feel terrible because I didn't deserve it." Apparently, he was blindsided by the song's release. "I never got an email, I never got a phone call, I was really caught off guard." He said like Taylor was too big of an artist to stoop to what he thought was low-level songwriting. Now, in response, Taylor Swift claimed to Glamour that he wasn't the track's inspiration. She's like, "How presumptuous, I never disclose who my songs are about." But he's not alone in his gripes. In an interview on the Ellen DeGeneres show, Taylor revealed that her song Forever and Always was written with Joe Jonas in mind, and apparently Joe had called off the relationship over a brief phone call. Well, Joe took to MySpace to address his split, being like, "For those who expressed concern over the 27-second phone call, I called to discuss feelings with the other person. Those feelings were obviously not well received. I did not end the conversation, someone else did. Phone calls can last only as long as the person on the other end of the line is willing to talk." Well, in the summer of 2012, Taylor Swift made headlines once again for a reported whirlwind romance with Connor Kennedy, son of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Speaking to ABC News in October of that year, Taylor didn't want to comment on the relationship because she doesn't talk about her personal life in that great detail. She said, "I feel like you can share enough of your life in your music to still let people know what you're going through and how you feel, and still with all the connection." Well, the bone of contention wasn't just the 4-year age difference between the then couple, but the fact that the duo was first spotted getting cozy only a week after Kennedy had become legal. So when asked if Taylor kidnapped Kennedy by flying him out to Nashville privately, she was like, "How did I kidnap him? You can't kidnap a grown man. These are serious accusations." Well, apparently, Taylor had been studying the Kennedy family prior to the relationship. Folks had a lot to say when she bought a $4.9 million beach house near the Kennedy estate in Cape Cod, allegedly just to be close to the family. And after the couple broke up, she sold the place. So when Taylor and Connor were dating, she was also accused of crashing a family wedding with him against the bride's wishes. Connor's cousin, Kyle Kennedy, was tying the knot with Liam Kerr, and Mother Victoria was like, "I didn't want Taylor in attendance." She told news outlets that apparently the couple texted her an hour before the wedding and was like, "Hey, can we come?" And she responded with a very clear, "Please do not come," and they arrived anyways. According to Victoria's account of the events, she graciously let Swift know her name, showed her the door afterwards. But Taylor apparently paid her no mind. Victoria said, "It was like talking to a ghost. She looked right past me." Jon Hamm, star of Mad Men, took part in a violent university hazing in 1990 at the University of Texas that led to criminal charges, at least according to court and school records. The incredible actor had not been previously publicly linked to a lawsuit filed by a member of a fraternal social organization who said he was severely harmed, dragged with a hammer, and had his pants lit on fire. In the 1991 lawsuit, the inductees said Hamm participated till the very end. Criminal records show that, well, he was charged with hazing and received probation, and a separate charge of harm was dismissed. That chapter of the fraternity, by the way, was permanently disbanded. A rep for Jon Hamm didn't comment on the incident when it was brought to light in 2015, and the star himself didn't give much of a comment to Esquire in a later interview. In addition to his hit piece comment, he was bristling at the topic, and when he finally addressed it, he downplayed it as sensationalized. He literally said, "I wouldn't say it's accurate. Everything about that is sensationalized. I was accused of these things I don't do. It's so hard to get into it. I don't want to give it any more breath. It was a bummer of a thing that happened. I was essentially acquitted. I wasn't convicted of anything. I was caught up in a big situation, stupid situation, and it's an effing bummer. I moved on from it." So sure, none of the records were sealed. John wasn't famous when the incident happened, and his connection to the case didn't come to light until magazines reported on it. But the internet had opinions about how he talked about it, with one user on Twitter saying, "Jon Hamm addressing his hazing scandal in this profile is a great example of how not to sound sorry about hooking the claw end of a hammer underneath a freshman's you-know-what." Somebody else said, "Men like Jon Hamm were dangerous to be around on a college campus. Because if they thought hazing was okay, you can better believe they thought worse things were no big thing. Good men don't haze people. Men who do were trash." And that was according to Shades of Limelight. Fun fact, folks, there are more connections with mainstream Hollywood and the adult industry than you might think. Some major players such as Sylvester Stallone, Wes Craven, and Men in Black director Barry Sonnenfeld cut their teeth in the genre. It was also commonplace for many behind the camera to work interchangeably between the two worlds, sometimes using pseudonyms. So for example, cinematographer Wow Fernandez used names like Harry Flex for his adult film work, but he went under his real name for mainstream movies like Invasion USA, Friday the 13th, Final Chapter. In the early 1930s and then again in the 1940s, Joan Crawford was one of the most bankable stars in Hollywood. But before her star took off, there was a bit of a scandal that almost stopped everything. In 1923, a year before she first appeared on Broadway, Crawford reportedly starred in a movie called The Casting Couch. Now that name should give everything away, but in case you're a little bit lost, it was essentially an adult film. Crawford, trying to make ends meet and get her name out there, apparently starred in many adult movies around that time. Now she repeatedly denied her involvement, but researchers have found that sadly, she was blackmailed at the time because of the movie. Phil Lewis started his film career in the iconic 1988 comedy film Heathers. That movie centers around a slew of, crazy crimes, and that would become all too relevant to Lewis in just a few years. In 1991, at the age of 23, Lewis was arrested after accidentally taking the life of a woman with his car. The amount of fun fluids in his system was over 3 times the legal level, which even his own defense attorney called extraordinarily high. Lewis claimed he was unable to remember anything for nearly 10 hours leading up to the accident, which was deemed possible due to his extreme level of intoxication. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison, but was reduced to just 1 after he spent much of his sentence working with a prison-based theater troupe that highlighted the consequences of that kind of crime. Now, despite these rough years as a young man, he continued to land guest roles in shows such as Married with Children, Boy Meets World, and then got that lead role on Sweet Life, which we all know him from. Uma Thurman said that Quentin Tarantino both hand necklaced her and spit on her for different shots for different moments in the films Kill Bill and Pulp Fiction, and Tarantino confirmed these allegations but defended the reasoning behind them. Now, Thurman has said that Tarantino also pushed her into doing a dangerous stunt that ended in a serious car accident, and these are all things that I think should be talked about more. Tippi Hedren was Alfred Hitchcock's most iconic leading lady. Under his direction, she went from being a model to a respected actress, but unfortunately he wanted a little more than to just direct her on screen. He was reportedly quite obsessed with her and made a number of unwanted advances, which she rejected. She said, "He stared at me and simply said, as if it was the most natural thing in the world, that from that time on, he expected her to make herself available and accessible to him, however and whenever and wherever he wanted." Now, when Tippi tried to get out of her contract with him, he threatened to ruin her career, and then he followed through on his threat. Because he had her under contract, he was able to keep her on the payroll without actually employing her. He made sure to turn down any film offers that came in from any studios. Looking back, she has a pretty good attitude about the situation, saying he ruined my career but didn't ruin my life. That time when my life was over, and I still admire the man for who he was, but yikes. The Kennedy curse spares no man. Senator Ted Kennedy, younger brother of President John F. Kennedy, was driving over a bridge with politician Mary Jo Kopechne in 1969 when the car leaped over the barrier and sank into the ocean. And while Kennedy was able to swim to safety, Mary Jo didn't make it. Once Kennedy made it back to his hotel, he waited till morning to call the police and report the crash. It is thought that maybe Mary Jo could have survived if help had arrived sooner rather than wait the 9 hours. Why did he do this? Well, he didn't want to get in trouble with the law, so he waited until the morning when he had sobered up. Some folks think that maybe the entire incident was an attempt to take the life of Mary Jo for unknown reasons. In 2013, Corey Feldman went on The View to talk about how the Predator numbers are larger than anybody knows and include a ring reaching up into the Hollywood elite that's been shielded for years by the establishment. Barbara Walters looked at him with disbelief, hands clasped across her stomach, and snarled, "You're damaging an entire industry," as if to say that Hollywood itself was more valuable than wrecking lives. In a lengthy statement posted to Twitter, Charisma Carpenter detailed how Joss Whedon allegedly mistreated her during her time on both of his hit shows that she worked on, Buffy and Angel. Carpenter wrote that after nearly 2 decades of staying quiet and making excuses for traumatizing events, she finally had the courage to call out Joss Whedon for using his power in a bad way on numerous occasions. Following Charisma's allegations, which included claims that Whedon continuously made passive-aggressive threats to fire her, called her fat when she was 4 months pregnant, pitted cast members against one another, and unceremoniously fired her after accusing her of sabotaging the show, several of her Buffy and Angel castmates shared their thoughts on the situation and messages of support. Sarah Michelle Gellar, who played Buffy on Buffy, said that while I am proud to have my name associated with Buffy Summers, I don't want to be forever associated with the name Joss Whedon. I stand with all survivors and am proud of them for speaking out. James Marsters, who played Spike, mentioned that while he will always be honored to have played the character, the Buffy set was not without challenges. He does not support harm of any kind, and he was heartbroken to learn of the experiences of some of the cast. He sent his love and support to everybody. So there was a lot of suspicions about the casting couch as a term used to characterize stars who are handed roles in exchange for favors long before the Harvey story broke. Megan Fox was one who spoke out. She spoke with GQ and laid out the cold hard facts, putting the rumors to rest. The actress stated that she would be honored to meet Hollywood legends and that she would be overjoyed by prospects, and then when she arrived, she would find out that meetings would be just a ruse. Many males in the profession were able to get away with sleeping with a lot of women, but she wasn't one of them. She was like, absolutely not, and that didn't help her career. Film critics and historians mentioned like, hey, does this ring a bell? Because over the years in Hollywood, the risks for a lot of folks were kind of high if you didn't follow the leader. Fall in line. Vanessa Marquez had a recurring role on the hospital drama ER during the 90s, playing nurse Wendy Goldman, and alleged that George Clooney helped blacklist her after she spoke up about the harassment that was occurring on the set of the hit show. Now, Clooney has since denied the allegations, saying he had nothing to do with casting, he was an actor and only an actor. If she was told he was involved in any decision about her career, then she was lied to. The fact that he couldn't affect her career is only surpassed by the fact that he wouldn't have. Now, following her stint on ER, Vanessa hasn't really had a lot of work. Sadly. Tara Subkoff was an up-and-coming actress in the 90s. She had roles in movies like As Good as It Gets, All Over Me, The Last Days of Disco. She was up for a part in one of Harvey's movies when he offered her the role at a premiere after a party, and then he hit on her. Well, according to her, after she rejected his advances, she found herself on the Hollywood block list. She was the subject of false gossip, labeled difficult to work with, and by that I mean like too difficult to work with. She said it became impossible for her to get work as an actress after that, so then she had to start a new career path, and yeah, poor thing. Harvey, once again, had Mira Sorvino's career derailed after she rejected his advances. She mentioned to Ronan Farrow that she had rejected him on several occasions and had even reported his harassment to a female employee at Miramax, and had then noticed that her career was starting to suffer. She mentioned like there may have been other factors, but she definitely felt iced out and that her rejection of Harvey had something to do with it. In December of 2017, director Peter Jackson came forward and admitted that Harvey had badmouthed Sorvino to him, telling him that she was a nightmare to work with and he should avoid her at all costs. Seeing a pattern here today. Tippi Hedren was Alfred Hitchcock's most iconic leading lady. Under his direction, she went from being a model to a respected actress. Unfortunately, he wanted a little more than to just direct her on screen. He was reportedly quite obsessed with her and made a number of unwanted advances, which she rejected. She said, "He stared at me and simply said, as if it was the most natural thing in the world, that from this time on, he expected me to make myself available in that nature and accessible to him, however and whenever and wherever he wanted." Now, when Tippi tried to get out of her contract with Hitchcock, he threatened to ruin her career, and then he followed through with his threat. Because he had her under contract, he was able to keep her on the payroll without actually employing her. He made sure to turn down any film offers that came in from other studios. Now, looking back at it, she actually has a pretty good attitude about the situation. She mentioned that he ruined her career, but he didn't ruin her life. That time of her life was over. She still admires him for his work, but not as a person. After Clint Eastwood dumped Sandra Locke back in 1989, she found herself blacklisted by all of Hollywood's major studios, and this lasted for like a decade. Before the breakup, she had quite the career. She had an Oscar nomination under her belt, she had starred in 6 films of his, she was a budding director, but her breakup with the legendary director was very messy. She arrived home one day to find that he had changed the locks on their shared home and had put her stuff in storage. In response, she filed a palimony suit against him. In 1990, they were able to reach an agreement. Eastwood actually set up a development/directing pact for her at Warner Brothers in exchange for her dropping the suit. But 5 years later, they're back in court. She alleged that he had compensated Warner Brothers to keep her out of work because they had rejected all of the 30 projects that she had proposed and didn't give her any of their in-house projects. When he realized the jury was going to side with Locke, he settled with her for an undisclosed amount. But her career was not magically resurrected. However, it did send out a message in Hollywood that powerful people can and will take advantage of their power, but in this case, we win. Being wrongfully touched is a problem for a lot of folks in Hollywood, be it man, woman, no matter what your gender is. A sad example of this is Brendan Fraser, who claimed in 2018 that at a public event, he went to shake the hand of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association president, or HFPA, Philip Burke, but instead Burke grabbed Fraser's behind. Now, Burke has described this account as a total fabrication, but then, in his 2014 memoir, he admitted to having groped him in jest. Sadly, when you combine this harm, Brendan's divorce at the time, and the death of his mother, it kind of launched him sadly into a depression that, combined with his health problems, led to a break in his career. He had completely turned away from the spotlight, but then he bravely and publicly shamed Burke for the indecency. Sadly, for quite a while after that, Brendan's work phone stopped ringing. But now he's back, and we'd love to see it.
Past scandals and now everything going on with Diddy have painted America's favorite talk show host in a bad light. Stick around for some evil things Oprah has been publicly accused of. The Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls scandal certainly isn't the first scandal attached to Oprah's name, but it certainly was the biggest. The Leadership Academy was originally designed and created to be a place to uplift girls in the community, but the good deed was quickly tarnished when the dorm matron was accused by multiple students of acting inappropriately towards them. The matron was arrested and faced 14 charges. In addition to those of inappropriate physical contact, the matron was accused of getting into a physical confrontation with a dorm parent and separately injuring 3 people while operating a golf cart. Adding more fuel to this fire, Oprah was later sued by the school's headmistress for over $250,000 on grounds of defamation. This was a direct result of this situation with the dorm matron. While that legal battle was happening, Winfrey had publicly commented that she was doing a complete overhaul of the school and that she had lost confidence in the headmistress. The headmistress claimed that these statements made it harder for her to find work afterwards. Court papers from the case read that Winfrey had originally intended to hire nurses to be the dorm matrons. However, the headmistress went a different route and, according to an article from CBS News, hired 8 young women from a local company called Party Design. Winfrey's lawyers at the time wrote about this, saying these young women were later found to be totally unqualified to handle the position, something the headmistress had been warned about. The 2 women were expected to settle this in court, but instead came to an agreement privately shortly before that date. Today, though, there is a brand new scandal being tied to Oprah's name. She has recently been accused of aiding disgraced rapper Sean Diddy Combs and making his sins happen over the years. You might recall that Sean Diddy Combs is in some boiling hot water right now after multiple people have stepped forward accusing him of engaging with them and others without consent, making people consume things unknowingly, force people into unwanted scenarios, film and use the footage from filming inappropriate parties he called freak-offs as blackmail to keep it all on the down low, and just generally being a really awful person and definitely not the kind of guy you'd want your name attached to. Unfortunately for Oprah, that is actively happening to her now since she has attended Diddy parties in the past. The thing is though, half of Hollywood has appeared on a Diddy guest list, but not everyone has been to a freak-off. Diddy was known as the party host in the 2000s. He hosted the white attire parties, massive birthday celebrations, after parties. They were known for being extravagant and expensive, and everyone wanted to attend. Allegedly, sometimes the after party for these events were freak-offs. But many news publications report that by the time a party descended into a freak-off, the big names had already left. However, people aren't just accusing Oprah of attending freak-offs, but also aiding and putting them on. Some sites even saying that she provided the people. Some people even going so far as to claim that Diddy's home was connected to Oprah's via an underground tunnel system, and that's how they did it. As of right now, this is not true. The claim that tunnels were discovered in Diddy's home was proven false. But Oprah's tunnel accusations don't just have to do with Diddy. People have accused Oprah of being part of a larger, multiple parties involved kind of situation that is similar in theme to the Diddy stuff, that directly linked her to some nefarious alleged activity involving forcing younger individuals into bad situations. Surprisingly, one woman claims not only is Oprah involved, but that she has the address to a tunnel entrance. Adria English filed a lawsuit against Diddy claiming she worked for Combs at the Hamptons and Miami parties he threw in the mid to late 2000s. She claimed that the drinks she was given on the job had other things in them that she didn't want. In addition to allegedly being forced to consume things, English claimed she was also forced to engage in inappropriate acts she didn't want to do. While initially having legal representation, Adria English and her legal team parted ways. The cited reason is irreconcilable differences. The filing read that they disagreed regarding almost every aspect of the litigation. One of the lawyers claimed that they never lost faith in her case, just in her, and that her case was great. The issue at hand was that English allegedly undermined their work, went behind their backs, doing things incongruent to advancing her case. To which English has allegedly responded with, "I'm the client, you work for me." Another major point of conflict between English and her representation was that they requested that she refrain from speaking to the media. Pretty soon after parting ways, English spoke to independent media, and the interview made its way around TikTok gossip pages. This is when English claimed that there were tunnels under Oprah's home. She also made the bold statement, she sees what's going on because she's a participant. Now, was all of this true? As of right now, again, no credible news sites have been able to find information confirming this. In fact, some websites like Snopes.com have looked into the tunnel rumor and have stated it false. Now, I don't want to say that Adria English is lying, just that the information hasn't been officially confirmed. But Diddy isn't the first time Oprah has found her name tied to some questionable characters. She was famously close to the man who also had a very public falling out with Hollywood after his past transgressions came came to light. Name rhymes with Starvey, anyways you get it. Oprah was seemingly publicly called out by Seal on Instagram for her past relationship to this person. The man posted a picture, the top image showing Oprah kissing the other man on the cheek with the text, "When you have been part of the problem for decades," and then the bottom image showing the man engaging in conversation with Oprah and another woman, this one with the text, "But suddenly they all think you are the solution." Seal added his own caption to the photo, calling out an individual for hearing the rumors but not doing anything about it, and implying that the person was pretending that they didn't know what was happening. While Seal didn't explicitly name names, there were faces in those pictures, particularly Oprah's, so everyone assumed he was taking a dig at the talk show host. Seal insisted this wasn't the case, it just happened to be Oprah that was the one in the picture with the man. It was more about the man in the picture than the talk show host, and this text was to be taken as a generalization of the entertainment industry rather than a direct attack. And finally, a popular new Netflix show has dug up an old Oprah controversy. Season 2 of Netflix Monsters crime drama anthology was based on the Menendez brothers case. Already, the show has its own controversies to deal with, but it took some outside parties down with it, including popular TV show host Oprah. She was accused of being dismissive and acting horribly in regards to the whole situation. Back when the actual trial was taking place in the 1990s, Oprah brought on one of the original jurors, Hazel Thornton. She gave Thornton a chance to speak on her experience and clear up some of the false facts that were being reported in the media, like how the jury was deciding between acquitting or charging. Thornton insists this wasn't true, and the jury was always in agreement to charge. The disagreements came down to the severity of that charge. The interview also featured Catherine Cryer, a journalist and state judge in Texas. Cryer and Oprah appeared to agree more than Hazel did. Cryer had made the claim that the defense used psychological manipulation on the jurors by putting nice, articulate, wealthy young men in, and this next part was stressed, in sweaters crying on the stand. There was a really big focus on the fact that the brothers were wearing nice sweaters for some reason. Catherine Cryer further explained her claim, stating that whether the defense is successful in making the jury more sympathetic to the accused by using aesthetics and gentle language, it is a common tactic used. Cryer also brought up tapes that revealed that this tactic was something that the brothers and their representation planned to use. Thornton was not given further opportunity to speak on this. As the show came back from a commercial break though, Oprah and Catherine again spoke on how common it is to see a difference in someone's appearance from the arrest to the court appearance. Oprah segued the conversation back to the Menendez topic and then gave the floor back to Thornton to clarify her stance. She was quick to reestablish that in the first case, the prosecution didn't make its case, and in the second case, they'd had it down. Oprah then went on to share the piece of the story that affected her the most and was the main reason why she didn't believe any of the brothers' tearful testimonies. It was because of the account that when police first arrived at the home, the brothers were out on the lawn crying hysterically. She said, they were crying hysterically when the police came. Whatever that means. Hazel Thornton did gently come back at Oprah with, "Don't you think that you'd be kind of freaked out if you just ended somebody?" And the 5-second long silence that came after that said it all. Now that this clip is viral again, people are calling her insensitive and uninformed, that she shouldn't have even covered the case on the show in the first place. And then Catherine Cryer said that the boys should have just left if they were experiencing extreme levels of harm at home, which prompted Thornton to shut down that argument by citing the months and months of psychological explanations from professionals that herself and the jury received, and just stating that the defense provided enough to give the jurors reasonable doubt. Due to the nature of the content with this particular case, people called out Oprah for championing herself as a person that supports victims, but then was acting this way when it came to the brothers.
So in March of 2012, Kim Kardashian was doused in flour while walking the red carpet at the launch of her perfume, True Reflection, in West Hollywood. Now, prior to the attack, Kim looked really cute. She was wearing these tight black pants, a matching blazer, a bright blue blouse. It was fun. It was that business casual-esque sort of look, but the flour ended up covering her entire upper half and her hair, and getting that out of your hair, it's like paste. So at the time, TMZ reported that Kim and her momager, Kris Jenner, were quickly ushered into a private room following the incident, and then Kim came back out later, laughing off the ordeal, being like, "Oh my gosh, that is probably the craziest, unexpected, weird thing that ever happened to me. Like, I said to my makeup artist that I wanted more powder, and that's a whole lot of translucent powder right there." Meanwhile, the assailant reportedly ran off after throwing the flour, but was intercepted by somebody who worked for Kim and held until the police arrived. She was arrested, but Kim opted not to press charges, with the woman being released shortly afterwards. Now, at the time, everybody thought that the attack was animal rights oriented. Apparently, the woman shouted "fur hog" when she threw the flour. And previously, PETA had called out Kim for her love of fur, but the organization denied that they were involved. And trust me, they love to take credit when they do something like that. So Here's the thing, folks. Kim Kardashian's former media strategist, Shiraz Hassan, alleged that the infamous incident was actually staged to help promote this whole perfume launch. In the documentary, The Kardashians' Billion-Dollar Dynasty, he claimed he told her, okay, this is what's gonna happen, you're gonna be fine, you're gonna be safe, but we're going to create a media moment. If we create media gold, guess what's gonna happen? Everybody's going to be talking about your perfume, everybody's going to buy it. Well, that's a weird way of doing it, but I guess no publicity is bad publicity? That's the phrase, right? So long before the most recent Hollywood scandals we can't talk about emerged, there were rumors about the casting couch, a term used to describe stars who are given roles in exchange for favors of a carnal nature. Megan Fox gave an interview to GQ and put the rumors to rest by laying out the cold, hard facts. The actress said that Hollywood legends would invite her to meet, and she would be so excited for the opportunity. Then when she would show up, she would realize that the meeting was just a ruse. She said a lot of the men were able to get away with sleeping with a lot of women in the industry, but she wasn't one of them. She would shut them down immediately, and that kind of explains why her acting career kind of fell to the wayside for a bit. The history of the casting couch is lengthy, with many guilty of its use. An early practitioner was Louis B. Mayer, who co-founded Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Studios back in 1924. MGM? Mayer, the ground zero of this kind of harm, had the means, motive, opportunity in that critical piece of the puzzle. The power. If women didn't comply, he'd threaten to ruin their careers or those of their loved ones. Yeah, sound familiar? So according to film critic and historian Carrie Rickey, the perils for women in Hollywood are embedded, like landmines, from an actress's debut to her swan song. This is a place where big moguls wouldn't cast starlets unless they auditioned in bed, which so freaking gross. So everybody calls Elvis Presley the king of rock and roll, but I think that title really belongs to Chuck Berry. The man was a rock pioneer, and with a little help from Marty McFly, he produced some all-time classics like Johnny B. Good, Roll Over Beethoven. Rolling Stone even went so far as to deem him the 5th greatest artist of all time. But and it's a big one. Well, he's one of America's greatest musicians. There are some who'd say he's also one of America's biggest creeps. I know, it broke my heart, but over the years he has had multiple run-ins with the law. In the 70s he was arrested for income tax evasion. In 1987 he was arrested for harming a woman. In 1990 police raided his home and made off with a lot of substances and weapons. But things get worse if we go way back in time. Well, not way back, but like 1961. He was arrested for transporting a female across state lines for naughty purposes. And sadly, that wasn't the only time he was accused of freaky behavior. In 1990, he was sued by multiple women, all of whom claimed he had videotaped them while using the bathroom. Now, this restroom in question was located in a St. Louis restaurant owned by the rock star, but instead of going to court, he settled. Supposedly, the whole ordeal cost him $1.2 million plus legal fees, and it really goes to show that when you're talking about beloved celebrities, you can never tell. So sometimes all it takes is an illicit substance for an actor or actress to put on their best performance. Tinseltown has been known to allegedly supply many A-list stars with a never-ending flow of their favorite vice. Actor Dennis Quaid revealed he had a casual addiction to No-No Snow before becoming a huge star. When he first moved to LA in 1974, he dabbled with it here and there, but things didn't get out of control until he was booked to appear in mainstream films. He did reveal that No-No Snow was listed in movies' budgets, but it was disguised as petty cash to keep the substance stuff on sets a secret, or an open secret. He claimed this was freely given out on movie sets because it was the norm. It was something everybody was doing. Now, looking back on it, he called his addiction one of the biggest mistakes he ever made. He said being addicted to it caused his entire life to fall apart. Even Jack Nicholson has spoken candidly about his use of substances. In a 1980 interview, he said, it ain't no big thing, and he still loved to, have fun about 4 days a week, which that sounds a little dangerous, a little too much, but what do I know? The Brady Bunch was one of TV's most wholesome shows. When it first hit the air in 1969, it was one of the first TV shows to portray a blended family. Whether you watched the show when it first aired or caught it in reruns, it has been a staple for generations, thanks to its family-friendly storytelling. And sorry to be the one to break it to you, but this show had a dark side too. And the youngest Brady, Cindy, otherwise known as Susan Olsen, spilled some serious scoop. So rumors of behind-the-scenes hookups have always run rampant, and this happens on any show. But Olsen confirmed the actors were all hooking up with each other in one way or another. She said, "We led a sheltered life for part of the year, so if there was anybody to get a crush on or to try to date, it would be our counterparts." Now, look, they weren't real life brothers and sisters, so I guess it's not so bad. According to Olsen, she and Mike Lookinland started having makeout session in Tiger's doghouse when they were on the show. And yes, the thing that you're feeling right now are the last shreds of your innocence leaving your soul. I know. I'm sorry to break your heart. So Mean Girls was a hit when it released in 2004, and it's gone on to become a cultural phenomenon. This film, starring Lindsay Lohan and Rachel McAdams, gave us The Plastics. It gave us Fetch, Burn Books, Pink Wednesdays. It's inspired a whole culture. It's infiltrated our language. When you compare somebody to Regina George, you know what it means. There's references scattered throughout pop culture to this day. However, despite everything that's been written about the film, there's a dark side of it that's rarely ever been addressed. So Daniel, who played level pal Damien, was a real-life victim of bullying, on this set and on other sets. It took many years for him to open up about the experience, only going public in 2007 when he accused actress Bijou Phillips of bullying him. Now, the pair worked together on his first film, ironically named Bully in 2001, and he accused her of body-shaming him and making him feel uncomfortable by asking about his sexuality. Now, Phillips later issued a public apology, but denied being homophobic. So powerful figures in Hollywood have continued to enjoy strong careers even after horrible allegations of on-set harm. Let's spin the wheel, Quentin Tarantino. In an interview with the New York Times about a disgraced Hollywood producer, Uma Thurman talked about her experience with Tarantino on Pulp Fiction and many other movies, and she said that he both put his hands around her neck and spit on her for different moments in the films. And he confirmed these allegations, but he defended his reasoning. Uma Thurman also said that Tarantino pushed her into doing a dangerous stunt that ended in a serious car accident. Now, she's forgiven him, because apparently he sent her the footage and called it the biggest regret of his life, but she continues to blame, rightfully so, all the producers for the traumatic event and their alleged efforts to cover it up. Now, in response to these allegations, in a statement to The Hollywood Reporter, one producer said, "I deeply regret that Uma suffered the pain she has, both physically and emotionally, for all of these years from the accident that occurred on the set. The safety of the producers who work on the movies I produce is vital to me. I will never let anyone down." And he tried to deny that there was any cover-up, but like, sir? Celebrities are allowed to have their secrets, but folks like Kim K, Lady Gaga, JLo, and more have had some really dark secrets leaked by their staff that we need to talk about. In March of 2012, Kim Kardashian was doused in flour while walking the red carpet at the launch of her perfume. I think it was called True Reflection. She was in West Hollywood. Now, prior to that, she was looking super cute. She was wearing these tight black pants, a matching blazer, a bright blue blouse, like it was a really cute fit. But the flour wound up covering like the entire upper half of her body and her hair, and it looked so gross. So at the time, she and her momager, Chris, they were quickly ushered into a private room. They, cleaned up, whatever, went back out. And Kim was like laughing it off. She said, "That is probably the craziest, unexpected, weird thing that ever happened to me. Like, I said to my makeup artist that I want to wear powder, and that's a whole lot of translucent powder right there. And like, I love laughing it off. Comedy's great." Apparently, the assailant reportedly ran off after throwing the flour, but then was intercepted by somebody who worked for Kim, held until the police arrived. She was arrested, but Kim didn't press charges. So the woman was released. And at the time, it was speculated that the attack was animal rights oriented. The woman allegedly shouted, "Fur hog," when she threw the flour. Sure, previously before that, PETA had called Kim out for her love of fur, but the organization denied that they were involved. And trust me, they're allowed to take credit for things that they do. Also, Kim wasn't wearing fur that day. This is not the Victoria's Secret fashion show, folks. So, Kim Kardashian's former media strategist, Shiraz Hassan, alleged that the infamous incident was actually staged to help promote the perfume. In the documentary The Kardashians' Billion-Dollar Dynasty, he claimed he told her, "Okay, this is what's gonna happen. You're going to be fine, you're going to be safe, but we're going to create a media moment. If we create media gold, guess what's gonna happen? Everyone's going to be talking about your perfume, everyone's going to buy it." Okay, whatever floats your boat. I don't think it's worth being covered in flour for. Lady Gaga was once involved in a bitter lawsuit with a former assistant, Jennifer O'Neill, and declared in court papers she was queen of the universe every day and O'Neill did not want to be her slave. So in the court papers, Lady Gaga apparently complained that O'Neill failed in simple duties, such as laying out her toothbrush and soap so she knew where they were. She insisted that O'Neill lived large off of her dime, wore her clothes, bagged the best bed on her private jet, and left the poor diva to lug her own suitcases. Meanwhile, disgruntled O'Neill sued for over $400,000 in unpaid overtime plus damages and testified that she was required to sleep in Gaga's bed because she didn't sleep alone and was expected to be working and available 24/7 for an annual salary of just $75,000. Such hours and demands might seem absurd to those outside of showbiz circles, but they're kind of par for the course. There's no such thing as overtime or having your own life when you work in showbiz, and thankfully the two settled out of court, but like, what was true here and what was a fib? Hakob Manoukian began chauffeuring J-Lo and her then husband Mark Anthony around in 2005 before eventually being promoted to Lopez's staff full-time as her personal head of security and transportation in early 2011. Now, by September of that year, he was gone from her staff, after which he filed a lawsuit for breach of contract and wrongful termination, and this was against J-Lo, her company, and her manager, Benny Medina. He claimed his agreement with J-Lo included a $72,000 yearly salary with additional production pay, potentially increasing his compensation to $200,000 yearly. But according to news outlets, he never received that production pay or the overtime. He claimed he dealt with intolerable labor conditions, such as working more than 40 hours a week and being prevented from taking proper meal periods, which forced him to resign. Now, J-Lo filed a countersuit against him, seeking a minimum of $20 million in damages, claiming the former driver was blackmailing her for $2.8 million because he was threatening to expose private information that he heard when chauffeuring her around. The countersuit also alleged that he became hostile and angry when J-Lo rejected his desire to lead and appoint members to organize a security team for a music video production. Now, the countersuit was dismissed in December of 2012, and they wound up settling the original lawsuit for undisclosed terms in February 2013, but this isn't the only former J-Lo staffer we're talking about today. Scott Barnes, an incredible makeup artist. He was credited with creating the signature technique that became J-Lo's glow in the early 2000s. It was like the look of the era. These two worked together from like the year 2000 until just recently. He was her personal makeup artist. He worked on Hustlers with her. He worked on the Super Bowl halftime performance. He worked on everything. The working relationship and friendship was like 2 decades long. But there's been some hiccups, and it doesn't seem like the two are like buddy-buddy anymore. Let me know if I'm wrong though. So he spilled the beans during an interview on the Jeff Probst show. So there was rumors circulating that Barnes and a couple of others leaked plans of J-Lo and Mark Anthony's secret marriage to the press, and nobody was talking to Barnes after that. He said, oh my gosh, nobody would talk to me. Now when the truth came out that he did not leak the news, he didn't even know about the wedding ahead of time, he got a phone call and it was like, hey, there's a big misunderstanding, we have a lot of stuff coming up, I really miss you, let's just get back to work. And great that he was so diplomatic in talking about all of this, considering it was like a whole fallout, but it's very clear he never got a direct apology. Also, at the time when that hiccup happened, it was really fast when the two reconciled, but it looks like they might be on the outs again, so maybe we'll get another tell-all. Mariah Carey's former personal assistant, Leanna Azarian, claimed she was subject to battery and harassment during her approximately 2 years of employment before being wrongfully terminated by the pop diva. I think that was in 2017. Now, that's according to a lawsuit that was filed with the Los Angeles Superior Court on that same day, which was the day that Mariah Carey sued Leanna, accusing her former assistant of secretly filming embarrassing videos, which was in violation of a standard NDA. Oh, and apparently the assistant was trying to extort her out of like $8 million. So according to a copy of the 32-page complaint from Leanna, she said she was hired by Mariah Carey in September 2015 at a salary of $250,000 per year. That eventually increased to almost like $330,000. She claimed the job entailed her to be on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to assist Mariah Carey and the manager. According to the lawsuit, Leanna claims the manager subjected her to verbal and physical harm, ridiculing her about body parts, making physical contact, and a lot of things that I can't repeat, but like, look it up. On multiple occasions, Leanna claimed the manager tackled her to the ground and then like did things to her. And apparently, according to the lawsuit, Mariah Carey knew about and was present for a lot of this alleged mistreatment and like allowed it to continue. And when Leanna complained about the conduct in October 2017, she was let go. So obviously she sued for battery, discrimination, harassment, and wrongful termination. According to a lot of news outlets, Mariah Carey's lawsuit accuses Leanna of being a grifter, a peeping Tom, and an extortionist, and claimed Leanna secretly filmed Mariah engaged in personal activities, which, if revealed, would be personally embarrassing and professionally damaging. Well, Leanna displayed the intimate videos allegedly to her friends and coworkers, and she said, hey, if I'm ever fired, I'm gonna sell these for a profit and buy myself a home. Well, girly pop, where are the videos? Because if they're not on the internet, she didn't do it. In an interview for the unauthorized Anna, a biography, Anna Wintour's garden designer, Miranda Brooks, said that Anna Wintour didn't like vegetables and therefore refused to plant a veggie garden at her Long Island home. Now, if we're talking about all of Anna's former staff, being her assistant was apparently exactly like how it was portrayed in The Devil Wears Prada. Love that movie. She has 3 assistants at any given time. Her first, primary assistant. Second one takes care of the home and the dogs, which at one point she had like all golden doodles, which like, so cute. And the third is in charge of running errands and organizing Anna's clothes, which like, I would not want to be in charge of that. One former assistant said they were terrified to ride in the elevator with her because Anna would list off everything they needed to do, even though they weren't like by their desks to write this down. So they're just like, oh, we kind of have to like remember all this. They were also scared to leave their desks to even just go to the bathroom. Anna would typically address all of them using the first assistant's name until she was sure they were actually gonna last. Ben didn't want his love letters to Jennifer being made public in her new film, but insiders have claimed it wasn't because he had kept them a secret from his ex-wife. Because Jennifer Garner's fans were kind of outraged after Ben Affleck revealed that he clung on to his correspondence with J-Lo during his 13-year marriage, and then had those letters and emails bound into a book to gift to Jenny from the Block when they reunited in 2021. But insiders have quashed any notion that the admission shocked Garner. Apparently she was happy for Ben Affleck and J-Lo. She's friends with them, and she's also at peace in her current relationship. But Ben, on the other hand, would love for the outside world not to know about his love letters. Sure, he's a romantic, but you know, he's still a private kind of guy. He keeps his memories, whether it is from the movies he worked on or family, relationship moments. He always has what common folks call receipts. But then at the end of the day, nobody was surprised by J-Lo making things public because J-Lo wanted everybody to know about it. She was like, oh, this is our inspiration. Ben didn't know that she actually brought those into the studio until she told the world. According to several of J-Lo's former staff members, Jennifer earned herself the nickname Paylo because she paid her staff around 50% less than they could make elsewhere. And this rumor's been going on for years, so it's pretty much fact at this point. We're talking like 2003, which is like 20 plus years ago. J-Lo was spotted in Vegas with Ben Affleck when they were first dating. Right now we're in round 3, 2, depends on where you are on the timeline. The pair had a big win. Ben decided to drop $2,000 to the dealer, but before the dealer could actually like take his well-earned reward, J-Lo snatched up the cash, swapped it for $200. Now, people are like, okay, does she have a reason for paying her staff so little? She's like, yeah, I had to work hard to make my money, so like everybody else should. And like, I'm sorry, that's just embarrassing. If you had to work hard to earn what you earned, you should want to try and make it easier for others because you know how hard it is. It's just a really entitled point of view, and it's gross. Now, if you didn't know, earlier this year, J-Lo released her documentary on Prime. It's This Is Me Now, a love story. Gave you behind-the-scenes look into her album, This Is Me Now. If I'm sounding redundant, just you wait. The movie was called The Greatest Love Story Never Told. Until it was told, and now it's over. Sorry, my little ad lib there. Some fans who watched it took to social media to call her out for her lies. Because in one scene, she poses in the mirror of her personal gym because she's shaking out her hair. She's reminiscing about growing up in the Bronx. She's like, yeah, I like taking my hair like this. It reminds me like when I was 16 in the Bronx, running up and down the block. Crazy little girl who used to be effing wild, no limits, all dreams. But then come in TikTok user, photos by Angela, who's like, I went to the same Catholic high school as J-Lo, and J-Lo is lying. She said, and I quote, we both attended an all-girls high school in an Irish and Italian neighborhood, so you weren't running up and down the block. Now, J-Lo's been long accused of some fibbing and whatnot. One big fib, apparently she doesn't actually sing on her albums. Singer Natasha Ramos took to TikTok to shed light on that rumor. So Natasha has a voice pretty similar to J-Lo's, and was allegedly hired to sing the demo of Jenny from the Block. And the production team liked her voice so much that they asked her to record 5 more songs for an album, which, oh boy. Natasha received $3,500 in a backup singer's credit. But as she claims, and as the original demo demonstrates, yeah, it's her voice in the final track. And not only in the choruses, it's her laugh, it's her yelling from the Bronx. J-Lo, I think, only really sings in the verse. Speaking of stealing, J-Lo's notorious for stealing from other artists. Like, she caught her big break back in 1997 when she starred as the late Latin pop icon Selena in the biography of the same name. And after that film, J-Lo ventured into music. Her demo was picked up by music exec Tommy Mottola and Sony Music, and she dropped her debut album in summer of 1999. And one big hit from that album was If You Had My Love. You know it, you love it, we've all heard it. Well, that song got some backlash from R&B singer Shantae Moore because Moore had a near-identical song called If I Gave Love that she recorded a year prior in 1998. Both these songs were written and produced by Rodney Jerkins. It's been said that J-Lo's then-boyfriend, whose name I probably shouldn't say on here, pressured Jerkins to write a near-identical song. And J-Lo's stealing habits only got worse as time went on. This wasn't like a one and done. So using background vocals is not uncommon in the music industry. But the issue with J-Lo is that she's passed those off as her own. Songs like Play and the I'm Real remix feature prominent reference track vocals from Christina Milian, Ashanti. J-Lo and Ja Rule's music video for I'm in Real remix Yeah, J-Lo used Ashanti's reference track vocals on the song and passed them off as her own. Yeah, instead of J-Lo re-recording the song, which is kind of what's normal in the industry, she left the demo vocals on the song and failed to credit anybody else. If I was to list everybody she's like stolen from over the years or attempted to steal from, we'd be here all day. But let's look at some notable names. Usher, Mariah Carey, Brandy Norwood. I could go on and on. Oh, and by the way, J-Lo's also been accused of lip syncing a lot during live performances. In 2021, fans flooded social media during her American Music Awards performance because they were very disappointed that her vocals did not match the studio version of her song On My Way. And then 2014, she was performing on American Idol, and folks were like, no, you're lip syncing I Love Ya Poppy. We all saw it, we all know it. Not the right move. So in 2002, J-Lo starred in the romantic comedy Made in Manhattan. And she went all over the world promoting this, and when she landed in London, people were talking. They weren't talking about the movie though, they were talking about her demands. Because, well, she was there and, hanging out, she had a very interesting encounter with hotel staff. She was staying at the Metropolitan Hotel, and this is where the early signs of J-Lo being a career diva began to show. The hotel staff was astounded by her extravagant demands, because apparently it was reaching levels they'd never seen before. She was like, I need thousands of pounds of lemon-scented candles. And also, if I'm even gonna go like a block around the corner, I need a limo. Literally, she had 7 limousines escort her to lunch at a place that was only 200 yards away. So maybe you think, well, Alexa, maybe she grew out of that. 2012 reports surfaced that Jenny from the block demanded that staff working for her make no eye contact or even speak with her. While having work done on her San Fernando Valley home, she demanded that none of the helpers, drivers, or contractors have any interactions with her. And reportedly, when flying first class, she doesn't like anybody to bother her, not even a flight attendant. And that's their job. They bother you for safety, if you need a snack. One time a flight attendant offered her a drink, and she was like, She said instead to her assistant, please tell him I'd like a Diet Coke and lime. Sure, this rumor hasn't really been confirmed, but come on, who does that? J-Lo had her former co-star Ryan Guzman fake his relationship status to hype up their movie almost 10 years ago. And we found this out from his ex-girlfriend who was with him at the time. So Melanie Iglesias called out J-Lo on the No Chaser podcast for how Jen acted during the 2015 The Boy Next Door press run. Because apparently J-Lo was holding hands with Ryan at after parties and acting like they were an item. But she knew fully well he had an actual girlfriend. The model says she even met J-Lo at an award show while she was dating Ryan, claiming she gave her an awkwardly firm handshake and an intimidating once-over, something Melanie says she was disappointed over, seeing as at the time she viewed J-Lo as a hero. And Melanie also pointed that when Ellen DeGeneres directly asked J-Lo on the show, doesn't he have a girlfriend? J-Lo played dumb. She's like, I don't know. Girl, you knew. J-Lo faced a lot of backlash after revealing she was unhappy about sharing the stage with fellow artist Shakira at the 2020 Super Bowl. The duo took the stage by storm at the iconic annual halftime show, with their history-making performance attracting a lot of praise from fans and celebrities worldwide. But turns out, despite the actual success of the performance, J-Lo wasn't really happy with the NFL's decision to have her and Shakira take the stage together. She admitted in her Netflix documentary that we know way too much about that she thought it was the worst idea in the world. Shortly after those comments hit online, fans were like, okay, what's up with this entitled attitude? Arguing that regardless of time constraints, it was iconic. And it's like, girl, you went out, you did your thing.
Rumors of a tunnel system below Oprah's home have been around for years, but with all the Diddy drama lately, the rumor is being dug up again. Of course, the alleged tunnels don't just have to do with Diddy. People have been accusing Oprah of being part of a larger kind of situation that is similar in theme to the Diddy stuff, that directly link her to some nefarious alleged activity involving forcing individuals into bad situations. The situation really caught fire when one woman claimed that not only was Oprah a key player, but that she had the address to a tunnel entrance. Adria English filed a lawsuit against Diddy, claiming she worked for Combs at the Hamptons and Miami parties he threw in the mid to late 2000s. In addition to allegedly being forced to consume things, English claimed she was also forced to engage in actions she didn't want to do. She claimed she was told by Diddy that in exchange for her actions, he would help her and her then boyfriend break into the entertainment world in their respective industries. English alleges that he never kept up his end of the bargain. Now she is suing Diddy and those deemed his co-conspirators for $50 billion. Adria English did have legal representation, but they have since parted ways. The cited reason was irreconcilable differences. One of the lawyers claimed that English was disrespectful and self-destructive, making it impossible to continue representing her. However, the legal team did say that they never lost faith in her case, just in her. To which English has allegedly responded with, "I'm the client, you work for me." But how does this tie back to Oprah? A major point of conflict between English and her legal team was that they requested that English not speak to the media. Soon after parting ways, English spoke to independent media, and the interview made its way around TikTok. English claimed that there were tunnels under Oprah's home. She also made the bold statement, she sees what's going on because she's a participant. As of right now, no credible news site has confirmed that, or that a tunnel exists under any of Oprah's properties. I do not wish to discredit Adria English, just clarify that the information she shared has not been officially proven yet. Oprah has found her name next to Diddy in the headlines after people noticed how comfortable she appeared with the rapper in party snapshots. She is being accused of aiding disgraced music artist Sean Diddy Combs in his unlawful activities. As mentioned, Sean Diddy Combs is in some serious trouble right now after multiple people have stepped forward accusing him of doing a lot of things without consent and just generally being a really awful person, and definitely not the kind of guy you'd want your name next to, especially not if you're someone like Oprah, a personality who has established themselves over the years as someone in firm support of the movement. Coming back to haunt Oprah are the pics of her partying with Diddy at his own events and others. Many big Hollywood names have appeared on a Diddy guest list in the past, but not everyone has been a guest at a freak off. Diddy was known as the party host in the 2000s. He hosted massive birthday celebrations, the white attire parties, wild after parties. The bashes were known for being over the top and expensive, and everyone wanted to be there. It was a status symbol to be around that much wealth. Allegedly, sometimes the Diddy after parties were freak-offs, but many news sites report that by the time a party descended into a freak-off, oftentimes the famous faces had already left. But people aren't just accusing Oprah of attending freak-offs, but also helping put them on. Some sites even claiming she provided the victims. Remember the alleged tunnels we just talked about? Well, some people claim that they connected Diddy's home to Oprah's, and that is how they did it. But unrelated to the Diddy tunnels are those that people claim to exist at her Hawaiian property. Over the years, many online sites and Facebook posts have accused the talk show host of having a private tunnel system underground the 1,000 acres she owns in Maui. Again, this is not yet proven. However, that doesn't mean her Hawaiian property is free of controversy. Many Native Hawaiians and others believe that Oprah should not own so much of the island. This particular controversy picked up again after the devastating fires in Hawaii. Oprah and Dwayne The Rock Johnson set up a fund where people could donate to aid those affected. Having a billionaire and a millionaire asking people to donate left a bad taste in people's mouths, despite the pair putting forward a $10 million donation to jumpstart the fund. To summarize, when it comes to the Oprah situation in Hawaii, people want her to return her land to the Hawaiian people, and instead of asking the public to donate, to take up that responsibility herself, as she is likely in a much better financial position. From a completely different section of the world, we have Oprah's school scandal. The Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy was supposed to be a place where girls can learn and feel empowered, but a scandal soon tarnished that legacy. The dorm matron was accused by multiple students of acting inappropriately towards them. The matron was arrested and faced 14 charges. In addition to those of inappropriate physical contact, the matron was also accused of getting into a physical confrontation with a dorm parent and, separately, injuring 3 while operating a golf cart. This information was quite shocking when it first came out. However, when details from the hiring process of said dorm matron emerged, the sequence of events made a little more sense. While dealing with a different issue, it was discovered that the dorm matron was one of 8 women hired by the headmistress allegedly from a company called Party Design, which was not Oprah's intention. According to an article from CBS News, the star had wanted nurses to act as dorm matrons. Those hired were later found to be totally unqualified to handle the position, something the headmistress had been warned about. While dealing with the dorm matron situation, Winfrey had made some comments about losing confidence in the headmistress and doing an overhaul of the school, something the headmistress claims made it hard for her to find work after. This resulted in her suing Oprah for about $250,000 on the grounds of defamation. The 2 women eventually came to an agreement privately shortly before their scheduled court date. The school and Oprah's rumored Diddy connections aren't the first time Oprah has found her name tied to similar scandals. Oprah was pictured many times with the big Hollywood producer who had a very public falling out with the industry after his past came to light. Seal joined that conversation after he seemingly publicly called out Oprah on Instagram for her relationship to this producer. Seal posted a couple of photos featuring Oprah looking friendly with that man. The text reading, "When you have been part of the problem for decades, but suddenly they all think you are the solution." Seal added his own caption to the photo, calling out an individual for hearing the rumors, but not doing anything about it. Seal might not have named names, but Oprah's face was hard to miss. Everyone assumed he was taking a dig at the talk show host. Seal claimed this wasn't the case, and it just happened to be Oprah in the picture with the man. It was more about the producer in the picture than the talk show host, and the text was to be taken as a generalization of the entertainment industry rather than a direct attack. But this caught more people's eye than anticipated, and it actually made some folks look into the relationship between the producer and host. One Quora user named Marina Cocaine claimed that there was a startling connection between the two. Back in 2019, 2 documentaries with similar themes premiered at the Sundance Film Festival, but only one seemed to earn media coverage and good reviews. One doc was about the previously mentioned producer, and the other about Michael Jackson. A Hollywood entertainment lawyer made the claim that in an effort to distract from his own doc, the producer and Oprah helped fund the Jackson documentary. Other than speculation and rumor, there is nothing out there to confirm if this is true or not. About the doc Oprah did help fund, she claimed she provided support because she believed the survivors and that this issue was too important to stay silent. However, Oprah has been accused of using her platform to uplift people over the years that turn out to be evil, like in the case of her segment on John of God. Originally thought to be something of a miracle healer, it was later discovered that the star of the segment was accused of over 600 instances of physically engaging with people without consent. John of God ended up receiving hundreds of years in prison for those charges, among others. Oprah gave this man a spotlight moment during her programming years prior, framing him in a good light. Since the accusations, his interviews were deleted from her site, and a note was put up in their place with the message that Oprah hoped justice would be served. Oprah has found her name tied to Diddy in recent months after people noticed how comfortable she appeared with the rapper in party snapshots. Now she has been accused of aiding disgraced music artist Sean Diddy Combs and making his transgressions happen over the years. You might recall that Sean Diddy Combs is in some serious trouble right now after multiple people have stepped forward accusing him of engaging with them and others without consent, forcing people into unwanted scenarios, and making people consume things unknowingly, filming and then using that footage from inappropriate parties that he called freak-offs as blackmail to keep it all on the down low, and just generally being a really awful person. And definitely not the kind of guy you'd want your name attached to, especially not if you're someone as famous as Oprah, who has established themselves over the years as someone in firm support of the Me Too movement and being a beacon of hope. Unfortunately for Oprah, she was spotted at Diddy parties of the past, and it is coming back to haunt her. The thing is though, many big Hollywood names have appeared on a Diddy guest list, but not everyone has been a guest at a freak-off. Diddy in general was known as the party host in the 2000s. He hosted the white attire parties, massive birthday celebrations, after parties. They were known for being extravagant and expensive, and everyone wanted to attend. It was a status symbol to be around that much wealth. Allegedly, sometimes the after parties for Diddy events were freak-offs, but many news publications report that often by the time a party descended into a freak-off, many of the famous names had already left. But people aren't just accusing Oprah of attending freak-offs, but also aiding in putting them on. Some sites even saying that she provided the people. Some people even go so far as to claim that Diddy's home was connected to Oprah's via an underground tunnel system, and that's how they did it. And that's a serious thing to say, but Oprah's tunnel accusations don't even just have to do with Diddy, and they didn't start with him either. People have accused Oprah of being part of a larger, multiple parties involved kind of situation that is similar in theme to the Diddy stuff, that directly linked her to some nefarious alleged activity involving forcing younger individuals into bad situations. Surprisingly, one woman claims not only is Oprah involved, but that she was given the address to a tunnel's entrance. Adria English filed a lawsuit against Diddy, claiming she worked for Combs at the Hamptons and Miami parties he threw in the mid to late 2000s. She claimed that the drinks she was given on the job had things in them that she didn't ask for, in addition to allegedly being forced to consume things. English claimed she was also forced to engage in actions she didn't want to do. Adria English did have legal representation, but unexpectedly, her and her team parted ways. The cited reason was irreconcilable differences. The filing read that they disagreed regarding almost every aspect of the litigation. One of the lawyers claimed that her case was great. The issue at hand was that English allegedly undermined their work and went behind their backs, doing things incongruent to advancing her case. That they never lost faith in her case, just in her. To which English allegedly responded with, "I'm the client, you work for me." But how does this tie back to Oprah? Well, another major point of conflict between English and her representation was that they requested that English refrain from speaking to the media. Pretty soon after parting ways, English spoke to independent media, and the interview made its way around TikTok gossip pages. English claimed that there were tunnels under Oprah's home. She also made the bold statement, she sees what's going on because she's a participant. As of right now, no credible news site has been able to find information confirming this or a tunnel system under any of Oprah's properties. In fact, some websites have looked into the tunnel rumor and stated it false. I'm not saying that Adria English is lying, just that the information has not yet been officially confirmed. But Diddy isn't the first time Oprah has found her name tied to some questionable characters. She was famously close to the man who also had a very public falling out with Hollywood after his past transgressions came to light. Name rhymes with Starvey, anyways you get it. Seal publicly called out Oprah on Instagram for her past relationship for this person. The man posted a couple of pictures featuring Oprah interacting with the man, the text reading, when you have been part of the problem for decades, but suddenly they all think you are the solution. Seal added his own caption to this photo, calling out an individual for hearing the rumors but not doing anything about it, and implying that the person was pretending that they didn't know what was happening. Sure, Seal didn't name names, but he did post faces, particularly Oprah's. Everyone assumed he was taking a dig at the talk show host. Seal insisted this wasn't the case, it just happened to be Oprah that was the one pictured with the man. It was more about the man in the picture than the talk show host in the picture, and the text was to be taken as a generalization of the entertainment industry rather than a direct attack. However, people weren't quick to forget it. In fact, this spurred some folks to look closer into the relationship between the two major celebrity figures. One Quora user named Marina Kane made a startling connection between the two parties. Back in 2019, two documentaries with similar themes premiered at the Sundance Film Festival, but only one seemed to earn positive reviews and media coverage. One doc was about the previously mentioned producer, and the other doc was about Michael Jackson. A Hollywood entertainment lawyer made the bombshell claim that the producer and Oprah helped fund the Jackson documentary to draw focus from the one about him. In my own research about this, I was unable to find anything solid confirming this, just what Oprah said about why she provided financial support to the other one. She said she believed the survivors and that the issue was too important to stay silent. A few years ago, a major scandal revealed that Oprah was not as involved with her Leadership Academy as she made it seem. The Leadership Academy was originally designed and created to be a place to uplift girls in the community, but the good deed was quickly tarnished when the dorm matron was accused by multiple students of acting inappropriately towards them. The matron was arrested and faced 14 charges. In addition to those of inappropriate physical contact, the matron was also accused of getting into a physical confrontation with a dorm parent, and separately injuring 3 people while operating a golf cart. Adding more fuel to this fire, Oprah was later sued by the school's headmistress for over $250,000 on grounds of defamation. This was a direct result of the situation with the dorm matron. While that legal battle was happening, Winfrey had publicly commented that she was doing a total overhaul of the school, that she'd lost confidence in the headmistress. The headmistress claimed that these statements made it harder for her to find work afterward. Court papers from the case read that Winfrey had originally intended to hire nurses to be the dorm matrons. However, the headmistress went a different route, and according to an article from CBS News, hired 8 young women from a local company called Party Design. Winfrey's lawyers at the time wrote about this, saying these young women were later found to be totally qualified to handle the position, something the headmistress had been warned about. The 2 women were expected to settle this in court, but instead came to an agreement privately shortly before the date. One feature on Oprah's show later came back to bite the host when it was revealed that the star of that segment was accused of over 600 instances of physically engaging with people without consent. The man was called John of God, and he ended up receiving hundreds of years in prison for those charges, among other things. Oprah happened to give this man a spotlight moment during her programming years prior. It framed him in a good light and made him appear as a miracle worker. Since the accusations, his interviews were deleted from her site and a note was put up in their place with the message that Oprah hoped justice would be served. Oprah spontaneously revealed a shocking secret back in 1995 during a segment on her show. While interviewing 4 mothers who were dealing with issues using substances, Oprah suddenly revealed that she related to these mothers more than anyone could have guessed. The TV star admitted that she also used the substance in question back in the day. The woman being interviewed at the time often referenced Oprah's honesty and strength, and it appeared that comments touched Oprah deeply, and she couldn't help but reveal to the mother that they were more similar than she thought. The host said, "This is probably one of the hardest things I have ever said. I relate to your story so much. I have done this. I know exactly what you are talking about." At the time of admission, it had been about 2 decades since Oprah used the substance, but it's clear that it was always weighing cheating on her. She said, "That is my life's great big secret that has always been held over my head."